good evening, folks. It is Sunday night at 9 p.m. and you know what this is? This is Relationship Q&A time. My name is Hassani.
And I'm Danielle Pettiford.
And we're here to serve you. We are the co-founders of Couples Academy. And we're excited not only because every single evening we come to you on Sunday evening, that is, but this is Resurrection Sunday. This is the day where millions and millions of Christians all over the world are celebrating the resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And because he died for us, we choose to live for him. So we're excited about that. Tonight we have a number of questions that have come in throughout the course of the week. And so for the sake of time, we want to jump right into it. But we highly encourage each and every one of you to, if you have a question, post your question. Hopefully we'll have time to really address those live questions. But we do have a number of people who have sent their questions in. So we just want to get started. Here we go. Question number 1. When a couple works different shifts, one working the day and one working the night or evenings, how do you have a successful, thriving relationship when work schedules are opposites? How would you answer that question, Daniel?
You know, it's all about the scheduling. That's what it boils down to. I think as co-preneurs, we have always had all kinds of shifting schedules. Whether it's me flying out of town to do something or Asani flying out of town, we've had to kind of make it work with the kids, balancing that family time and balancing that intimate time. So it's really just about scheduling. I know that some people have it really hard. You know, some people don't see each other. Hassani had a client once or a couple clients actually, that were truck drivers. And so, you know, they're driving, they're on the road, and they may not see their partner for a week. And sometimes that partner will just make it happen and get in the truck and roll with the husband. So I think at the end of the day, you guys have to figure out how to work your situation as best as you can. And that might just start with getting a calendar in place.
To your point, excellent idea. The calendar is key. You know, we've talked about the power of a calendar from day one. So like she said, some of our clients are truck drivers, but then, you know, you have people who are in careers where they're both traveling. Maybe they're actors in Hollywood, or maybe someone's in construction and they work like basically 5 days a week in another state and come back only on the weekends. Or maybe you both live in the same home and you work every single day and come home every day, but you're working opposite shifts. So one's working a full daytime shift and then one's working the midnight shift.
Right.
And the only time you see each other is when each other is asleep or passing in and out. And so it's critically important that you take a calendar.
Yeah.
The critical component of taking a calendar. Because at the end of the day, the quantity of your time will be spent with work. The least amount of time is going to be spent with each other.
Yeah.
But as long as you're giving each other quality, see, quality over quantity is what really what matters. And so when you're spending your time together, you have to make sure that you are intentional, that you are giving all of yourself in that moment. Yeah. You know, because there's a major difference between physical proximity and quality time.
Yeah.
For instance, right now we are in physical proximity, but if she's on her phone and I'm watching television, this is not quality time.
Right.
So quality time is when our attention is on something together or on each other.
Right.
And when you do that, then you have what is called some type of balance, I guess you could say, in the midst of your turmoil because you have so many things going on. Listen, we know a couple that every quarter they travel.
Yeah.
They literally leave the country. They go to different parts of the country in order to get away. Because if you think about it, every day you're experiencing new things. You have new memories. And you want to make sure that you begin to spend quality time so that you can begin to develop memories together.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Hey, I just want to give a shout out to Jewel. Hey, girlfriend. Hey, Sean. Hello, guys, he says, and he also says, I'm a huge fan because of the conviction to be a better husband. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for saying that because, you know, the husbands sometimes need a leader to raise up, okay? So you're that leader tonight. I want to also say hi to Katrina and Triona. Hi, Triona. I'm so glad to see you. And James Richard. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Yes. We're excited to have you on. Listen, last point I want to make about the whole calendar piece. Listen, the power of technology. One of the things that Danielle and I do, we've actually merged our Google Calendar. So in essence, when I put an event in my calendar, she can see it, I can see hers, so we know when each other has something planned, and we can even create a Google Calendar for our own relationship.
Yeah.
And so that way we're keeping track of what it is that we have to do so that we can spend quality time together.
Yeah.
So I hope that kind of addresses that question. Yeah. We have another great question. Is social media good pre-screening to check someone before dating? You know what? That is an amazing
I think so.
When that question came, I was just like, yes.
For me, it was an immediate yes, because that's what, as an employer, all employers do. You go to the social media. If somebody sends you a application and you see them on social media acting a fool, saying things that are contradictory to your mission and your purpose, you're not going to hire them. So it's the same thing with you dating. Like if you see some foolishness, for example, in dating, you can see if the person that you're trying to date is a player. If all they do is have a bunch of women with boobs all out and everything like that. I mean, I've got girlfriends that are on the dating scene, and they can see when these guys are out here dating and trying to get with anybody. So, heck yeah, do whatever you need to do to find out what's going on with whoever you're trying to date. Yes.
Yeah, they call it social proof. See, when we were dating, social media I don't even think was out. Or maybe if it was, it wasn't as significant as it is today. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you got to keep your eyes on. There was a study done, actually, in the UK, and it said that individuals, actually, before they went out on their first date, they began to look at people's profiles, whether it be Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and 75% of them chose not to go on the date based upon what they saw.
Yeah.
So you got to realize that what you do, listen, it's on the internet forever.
Exactly.
But see, that's another thing, because a lot of times people have fake lives.
That's right.
Online.
Exactly.
So they give an impression that is not, true to the reality.
Yeah.
So you don't want to put too much into it, but you do want to consider.
I mean, you just want to be genuine because, well, you're talking both sides. Like the person that's putting out a profile needs to be real because eventually you're going to get found out. You're going to get found out. But some people don't care, and they'll put fake profiles up and everything else. So my point is that, today we've got so much out there. You've got Twitter, you've got LinkedIn, you've got Facebook, you've got Snapchat, you've got Instagram. So you are going to, if you're a really good detective, and I'm a detective, okay, women, if you're a good detective, you will find the inconsistencies. It really does not take much, okay? If he says that he works for, the government, and then you see on one of his other old, things that was updated recently that he's really working at Burger King, I mean, now you know he's a liar. So, yes, do what you need to do to find out what you need to find out so you don't waste your time.
And then beyond social media, to me, take a good look at their friends, their family, the people they associate with. As they say, birds of a feather flock together. So you want to pay attention to a person's surrounding, their environment, their close relationships, because that tells the story too.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Next question. This is a good one. If a spouse wants to end the marriage, has moved out, and possibly may be in another relationship, should the other spouse refuse to sign papers and wait for the prodigal spouse to return? That's a deep question. That's a deep question because I know a lot of couples that have actually come to me, and they've come in different stages of their recovery process. So some have come to me separated, right? Some have come to me divorced and wanting to reconcile. So it is a possibility that a relationship can be restored if one person is in another relationship, left a home. I mean, that is what we will call an affair, right? So some affairs last for several weeks, several months, some several years. And I think that everybody has a different temperament. Everybody has a different, willingness to deal with certain things.
Wait a minute.
What's so funny?
So, Jules says, no. Well, go ahead, Hassani, because Hassani and I have shifted different kinds of perspective on this.
The thing is, because I work in counseling,
yes,
and I have a lot of couples that come to me in those situations. I've seen relationships restored.
Yes.
Matter of fact, I know of quite a few success stories when that has been the case.
Oh, quite a few?
Quite a few. The spouse actually was living with another person. Mm-hmm. And the other one was patient. They were waiting. They were praying. And they were intentional in going out and doing things to bring their spouse back.
Okay.
And it worked.
All right.
Now, I know others that have been waiting a long time, and things still haven't turned around.
Here's my take on it. As Hassani said, everybody has a different temperament, and you got to know your temperament and the person that you're going after. It really varies the situation. When I first heard that, I was just like, heck no. Like, if the person has moved out on you, he was having an affair, she was having an affair, whoever, mm-hmm. They have moved in with another person, and is asking for divorce papers, and you are refusing to sign, for me, all you're doing is starting a bigger war and a fight, because you cannot keep that person. If they have sent you divorce papers, then they want out. And by you saying no isn't going to keep them there. Now, on the flip side of that, that is true. As a matter of fact, we do know a couple that is doing well, and one of the people did do this. Okay, she did do this, and her husband came back to her. Great. But you also have heard of people winning the lottery too. You ain't gonna win. So my point is that it makes sense to me that if a person leaves you and they are asking you for a divorce, they have cheated and left, moved out with the other person, and want divorce papers. If you are refusing to sign those papers, to me the odds are that there's some work that you need to do, because this person has cheated on you and left you. And are asking you for a divorce. Let them go. Because my thing is, like, after they return, then what? It's hard enough being in a relationship that is working. But this person went through all of that, and then you want them back? Then what are you going to have to go through to keep them? To me, it's not worth it. I say let it go.
Well, there you heard it, folks. And you know what? The reality is sometimes we're going to differ in terms of our opinion. There have been those who have attempted to wait for their prodigal spouse to return, and they have never come back. So there's been many years wasted where they could have picked up and moved on and transitioned into another relationship. And then we have others where they've been successful.
Wait, Sean says, don't mean to go here, but their bedroom game must be bomb diggity. Exactly. Listen, for you to hold on so tight? Like, what in the world?
Well, listen, you know, at the end of the day, people have different philosophies about commitment and marriage and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in terms of leaving. At the end of the day, what you should do is seek professional counseling, somebody who can guide you through that process. Because I've been on the front end and back end of both sides, and I've seen them work and I've seen them fail. Yeah. So really, you have to get in your prayer closet and ask God what it is that he wants you to do and hold on to it. Now, understand the difference between faith and foolishness. Sometimes we hold on to things believing that it's God, and it's really not God. Yeah. And so my thing is, you got to look at all things, consider all things, and seek wise counsel. Yeah. You know, the Bible says that wisdom is the principal thing. Get wisdom, in all thy getting, get an understanding. So when you're around wise individuals who can guide you through difficult decisions like that, it helps. Because when you're making these decisions, if you're so emotionally infused, you may not make the best decision for you. Mm-hmm. Because if emotion, one day you're up, one day you're down. One day you're in, one day you're out. They say different folks for different strokes, but different ways on different days. So you got to be mindful that you make the right decision for your life.
Jules says, sign the papers. Bye. Okay, do we have another question? Because we have a question here.
No, you can ask that question.
Okay, so James says he would like us to speak to the dating of a professional woman. In Antigua, we have a lot of single professional women, lawyers, doctors, etc. Many of these women say guys are intimidated by their status.
The reality is...
in Antigua,
sorry about that. Technical difficulties on the set. No, but that's a very good question. You know, I wrote a book entitled Why We Hate Black Women and Why We Should Love Them. Mm-hmm. And it talks about the unfortunate struggle between black men and women as a result of so many different factors. And in the book, we talk about the 3 things that women do that contribute to them being alone, and the 3 things that men do that contribute to them being alone. Now, just not going through all of them, one of the things that I point out is that some men, not all, somebody say some, are intimidated by a woman because of her personality, mm-hmm. because of her position, and because of her possessions, the things that she's accumulated throughout the course of her life, her stature in society, and her strong, domineering personality. And unfortunately, for some men who are not secure within themselves, who don't have a level of strength, oftentimes find that thing intimidating. Now, I will say that there are some women who can be very intimidating. As they say, listen, if you want to be approached by a man, learn how to smile. Learn how to have a pleasant personality. Learn how to be likable. Learn how to tap into your femininity. Yeah. You know, no man wants another man or a woman with the same level of strength, physical strength that he has. So I think there's some truth to that, but at the same time, a lot of men are intimidated because every time they look at that woman, it's a reminder of what they failed to do in their own lives. So now they have feelings of inadequacy based upon what she has done.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't have an additional comment to that, except for I agree with that. I mean, one thing that I wonder about is why aren't the men, accelerating at the rate that women are? I've always wondered that. Like, they have the same opportunities, it seems. Why wouldn't they go to college? Why wouldn't they get their degrees? Why is it just the women that are thriving, and it seems that
I think at the end of the day, for so long, the society has been a man's world, and so once women obtain rights and have the ability to then transition into careers and education, they've just pursued it. And a lot of women are now over spiritualizing or out spiritualizing a man, out educating a man, out employing themselves. And so what's happening is shrinking the dating pool for many women because, you know, they're leading the pack. And a lot of men's development has been arrested. And I'm finding that there's so many men who just have a laid back mentality. Like they just sit back and it's like, hey, sarah, sarah, and the woman has become the aggressor, the hunter, the pursuer. And I think there's been a switching of roles. You know, we talk about how there was a time when there was nothing but pretty women and working men. But it seems like today there's nothing but a whole bunch of pretty men and working women. We've switched roles.
Right.
And that role reversal has impacted our relationships and our households in a tremendous way. And I think that if men begin to rise up and become the men that God has called them to be, I think that you'll have more of a equality and balance in relationships, and less men would feel intimidated by women. Listen, I'm secure in who I am. As beautiful as she is, as successful as she is, as intelligent as she is, there's nothing about her that intimidates me. She compliments me. You know, and I think that when you come into a true knowledge of who you are and you become whole and complete within yourself, no man, no woman, nothing on the face of this earth can intimidate you.
Amen.
So it speaks to a deficiency, unfortunately, that lies within a lot of men. Hope that answers that question.
Yep.
But we have another question. This is another one. Here we go. With regards to cheating, you once said that we should talk about why they cheated so it doesn't happen again. Does it mean now that I should live my life in fear of him not slipping up again? I think that's a very good question. And to answer that question, I would say no. The reason why you want to take the time, if there's been an affair in your relationship, to discover the why is because oftentimes if the hurt partner doesn't know the reason for the affair, doesn't understand the why, can't put all the pieces together, they remain stuck. And oftentimes they remain stuck in their past. And it's hard for them to move forward unless they have closure. And closure comes with clarity. And so understanding the why of the affair helps that hurt partner get over. Now, the reality is, oftentimes, the person who's responsible for the affair doesn't understand the why. And I think oftentimes we focus on manifestations of problems and not the root cause of the problem. So if there's a situation in the relationship or if there's something going on internally and we can't quite figure it out and we just react by getting involved in an affair, but we haven't really dug deep enough to discover the reasons as to why, then it's probable that it can happen again. So once you understand the reasoning for it, then you can create boundaries and structures and some type of, covering and protection around the relationship so it doesn't continue to happen again.
And I just ultimately think that, especially women, we just want to know. Like, somebody had written in and said something about them not being able to be intimate with their spouse because it's on their mind. And they can't think about being intimate with their spouse because all they can do is think about what they were doing with this other woman and how they, are they thinking about this other woman? So the point here is that the disclosure of why and all the secrets and everything that was happening when you said you were here, when you were there, all of this really does help to kind of deal with it because we're a lot stronger than we think we are. Everybody says, if somebody cheated on me, I'm out. That's what you think because you have yet to been cheated on. But people who go through the process understand that there's a lot more to it. It's deeper. A lot of times both parties have had a part to play in it, and maturity will acknowledge that. And if you actually work through those details, you can go through it. A lot of people who think they would have been gone after an affair are still there, thriving, healed, healthy, whole,
That's true.
And it's not continuing.
And the reality is most people who experience affairs do stay together. Why? Because they go through a process of recovery. Now, if you do not tune in on Monday evenings at 9 p.m., you need to because we talk about infidelity recovery. And in terms of understanding the why, you have to know that there are 4 different types of an affair. You have the one-night stand, you have emotional entanglement, you have sexual compulsion, and then you have the marital void. And so clearly determining which category or classification the affair fits into gives you more of an understanding of how you can begin to restore. Because you could apply the wrong solution to the right or the wrong solution to the problem and you never resolve it. So it's really about doing some investigation, having conversations, and working with someone to figure that out.
Jewel makes a good point, so I want you to clarify this. She says, a person cheating is responsible for their actions. It is not the fault of the other person. Sorry.
Well, I want to bring some clarity to that because, yes, if I'm the one who cheated, I'm responsible for what I did. But I think that what happens is oftentimes the hurt partner goes through the initial process of blame during the disclosure phase. The disclosure phase is when you first find out about the affair. And unfortunately, the hurt partner could put all of the blame on the spouse, all of the blame on the affair partner. There are times when they place all the blame on themselves. Mm-hmm. And so while you're going through that phase, you have to realize that there's so many circumstances and relational patterns that create a vulnerability in a relationship for an affair to take place. So yes, I have to take full responsibility for what I did, but it speaks to a deeper issue or problem that needs to be dealt with. And that's why we talk about the marital recovery as well as the individual recovery process, as well as the affair recovery process. And I think that oftentimes when people are trying to resolve affairs in their relationships, they just scratch the surface. They don't dig deep enough. So yes, it's true that I or whoever has to own up for what they've done, but we've got to look at the overall scope of the relationship and point to what are some of the root causes that created that.
Right. Not to blame the person who was cheated on, but there is an environment that was created that caused that to happen. And it could be deeper, right? Because it's like some people are just compulsive cheaters.
But that's true.
I mean, did you break down like the different reasons why people cheat?
I did.
Okay, so I mean, if you are a compulsive cheater and you have an insatiable desire to cheat, that's a deeper problem that spouse has nothing to do with, and there's really not, that person needs counseling. But there are some cases where, for example, a wife that is withholding and refusing to have sex. This person may be outside of that situation, may not have cheated, but was driven to cheat because of a whole bunch of other circumstances, time and place and opportunity. Just so happened to be that the person was going to the gym and had made friends with a female. Like, you just don't know the environment and the mix of situations that was created when this person cheated.
And the reality is, if you look at marriage today, in terms of comparing it to when it first began hundreds or thousands of years ago, I mean, there's a major difference. We've redefined it through every season, through every century. Yeah. We've taken on new definitions and interpretations. Likewise, so have affairs. So affairs aren't cut and dry. And I think the problem is, a lot of times, husbands and wives don't have conversations to discuss, what is your definition of an affair? What is inappropriate?
That's
what does
true.
Commitment represent?
Right.
Like, if this is done, is that an affair?
Right.
Because if I think that penetration equals an affair, then that means I can do anything outside of penetration and I'm good.
Right.
But if she believes
like going out on a date and sneaking. Like,
Absolutely.
What if you're going out to lunch every day with a female or a male, opposite sex, every day, and not telling your spouse, not answering the phone? You know, I was at lunch, but you're lying and you're sneaking. To me, that's an affair.
Because that's an emotional affair.
Yes.
And oftentimes we talk about how the affair never begins in the bedroom. It ends in the bedroom, unless it's a one-night stand. And so there are so many different things that happen that line up that make the full-blown affair possible.
Yes.
So it's important to discuss those type of issues.
Yeah, Jewel has gone ham, so we're going to move on. I want to address Kim. How does a person cope with dealing with an abusive spouse, i.e. mental, emotional, and physical?
That's a deep question. I mean, to me, I would like to unpack that a little bit more, but let me just say that I forgot to post this question, but someone asked a similar question. How do you talk to somebody who's abusive? And in this particular case, they are verbally abusive, they are emotionally abusive, and quite often, well, not often, but sporadically, they are physically abusive. And you know, we do not condone abuse. We do not condone staying in an abusive relationship, particularly when you fear for your life, because unfortunately we know too many examples of people who have lost their lives because they were scared of their spouse but refused to leave for safety reasons, or maybe they felt physically, financially indebted to that particular person. There are all types of reasons, bad reasons, why people stay in bad relationships. So I really think, you know, it goes back to understanding that there are three relationships you got to master. The relationship you have with yourself, the relationship you have with God, and then the relationship you have with your partner. A lot of people enter into and remain in relationships out of inadequacies, out of, internal issues, things that they've never overcome, insecurities. And so somehow being connected to somebody who's abusive, they perceive that as commitment. Well, is that a good commitment or is that a bad commitment? Sometimes we confuse what love really is, because if I grew up in a household that was abusive, and it's not about right or wrong, it's about what I'm exposed to. So if this is the way it's supposed to be, because this is how I grew up, now I'm in the same pattern in the relationship, and so why leave? This is the way It's always been and what I've always seen. So I think that we need to really redefine what a healthy relationship is. But, if you're in a physically abusive relationship, you really got to start having deep conversations with yourself. You have to build a support system around you. You have to seek wise counsel. And you've got to really have serious conversations and let that partner know who's abusive, whether physical, emotional, verbal, that there are certain things that you're not going to stand for. I have found, not in all cases, but in some cases, that a person can only do what you're allowing them to do. Like, once something is done once, you nip that mess in the bud and let your messaging be strong that, Joker, if you ever do such and such and such and such again, it's a wrap. It's over, whatever that means for you. But if they continue and continue and continue and continue, then you're giving them license to do it, because there's something called marital patterns. And part of, when you identify the pattern that's taking place in the relationship, you realize, wait a minute, it's not just him or her, but I'm a part of the pattern too. So pattern recognition says recognize the pattern and break it so that that pattern cannot continue. When the pattern is broken, that's when change takes place. If you want change to take place in your relationship and you don't believe that your partner is able to make changes, when you make changes within you, internal vows within yourself about what you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept, then all of a sudden the dynamics of the relationship change, because they realize, uh-oh, that won't work anymore. Can't do that. Got to try something new. Got to try something different. So I would basically go back to self and make internal vows within yourself, core convictions. You have to have non-negotiables, and then present that to your partner. And whatever happens from that point, based upon your core convictions, you go with the plan that you put in place.
All right. We got another question from Janet. She's asking, in your counseling experience, do men speak to the desire of wanting more traditional and feminine ladies?
Absolutely.
Wow, really?
Let's pause on
Let's
this.
slow down there.
Well, first of all, I don't know I don't know Janet, where she's what country she comes from or her age, but even traditional has taken on a completely different definition depending upon your own background. But I will speak to the whole femininity piece. In the book, Why We Hate Black Women and Why We Should Love Them, we talk about how black women in particular, and this is not just black women, but, just women, how they have been forced to be strong, how they have been forced to play roles that they were never designed to play, forced to be mommy and daddy, forced to be husband and wife. So therefore, they have a high level of femininity and a high level of masculinity. And oftentimes, they were raised by their mother or mother and father from a young child to be a man. They were trained to be a man just in case you grew up and didn't have a man, and how to play both roles.
That's the truth.
Thus not leaving that man with any role to play.
Wow.
So if you grow up with these, with these characteristics and these behaviors and this mentality, it can cause conflict if you wind up in a relationship with someone who's a bona fide man. Now, when you talk about personality attractions, a lot of times strong, domineering women attract a lot of passive, laid-back men, so that dynamic may work for the time being, even though over the long period of time it can present problems. But at the end of the day, many men have come to me. Now, let me just say this. Men don't often talk and open up with their wives until they come into counseling. Because when they come into counseling, they realize that they're now in a safe space. They are now in a place where they won't be judged. They are now in a place where there's a referee, if you will, who can balance out the perspectives and bring light to certain situations. And a lot of times men feel emasculated. Men feel robbed of their position. Now, I'm not talking about weak men who don't show up and who don't do what they're supposed to do. But a lot of men feel that way. And to me, it requires having deep conversations about what femininity looks like, what masculinity looks like, clearly defining roles and expectations in the relationship so that there is balance.
Balance is the key, because here's the thing. I was raised by a single black-ish mama.
Blackish, okay.
Blackish mama. And here's the deal. If she hadn't raised me to be who I was, to not depend on a man, to rely on others, I would have been waiting for Romeo to come and sweep me off my feet when I really needed to get busy doing my own thing. This is not the 60s. We are not Stepford wives. Some of us are trying to be and want to be, but we're in Atlanta, but this ain't no Housewives of Atlanta situation. So the thing is that women are working. We are working out in the field. We're not in the field, but where are we working? Bringing home the bacon, going to the store and buying the bacon, cooking it up and serving it. So, and then a lot of us are also in very high-powered leadership roles where we are telling men what to do all the day long, right? So here's where the balance needs to come in for me. Thank God I have a man that is a provider, that takes care, that leads his family and all of that, but not all of us do. Some of us have husbands and spouses and partners that are not leading in the way that they should be, and so the woman in us, the fix-it in us, the help-me in us, the thing that God put in us that made us a good and suitable partner to a man fills in the holes. We fill in the blanks. And so I think that the balance needs to come where the manhood needs to be restored. Because I think the lack of manhood in the community of men, and it doesn't matter what race you are, there's a lack of manhood because of the brokenness of families, and you find all these single parent homes, and so the men, all they've ever seen is their mama do everything. Yes. They've never seen a man lead. They've never seen a man anywhere except for a man needing. And so what they do is they marry women who look like their moms, who do everything, cook everything, provide, tell everybody what to do, tell all the old stories, pass on tradition and everything. And so that's why we are unable a lot of times to be the feminine version of a woman that is, I guess, ideal. At the same time, we're not living in that age. I honestly, this is what everything that I'm rambling about so passionately boils down to, is that I think that we need to redefine what femininity means. Yes. Period. Boom. And because I am every woman, okay? But I know how to lead in my business. I know how to lead in my house because I'm a leader in my house as well. And I also know how to follow my husband. But I'm a leader no less. And I'm a feminine woman no less. Right. And me being the leader of the home doesn't diminish who she is. Not at all. It doesn't strip her of her womanhood, of her strength, none of that. Because as a secure man, it is my job to respect the excellence that she comes with, the gifts and talents that she brings into the household. And so I'm not here to beat her down and to make her into some slave. No, we are co-laborers together. Yes. And I think a lot of times you either have women who are just so independent and you can't tell them nothing, or men who are so domineering, they're egomaniacs. They have a false sense of masculinity and don't know how to respect the value that God has placed in this woman. Yeah. And so now you have a power struggle between the husband and the wife, and they don't know how to come together, bring their strengths together, and turn that into a power couple. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're here to do at Couples Academy and the Couples Business School, to really help people get over their conflict, get over their crisis, get over all their issues, so that they can bring their strengths together collectively and do something that is impactful for their marriage, for their families, for the community, and for the world. And that's what we're here to do. Listen, I appreciate you guys and your comments. Some of these comments are really hysterical. But listen, before we go, I want to just give you a quick, brief announcement. As you know, we've talked about how we have a big retreat coming up, and we want you to watch this video. We'll be right back.
Redeemed Promotions, in association with Couples Academy, presents To Have and To Hold Marriage and Singles Retreat at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort on July 21st to the 23rd of 2017. First 50 couples to register stands a chance of winning 2 7-day Caribbean cruise on Caribbean Cruise Line. The first 25 singles to register stands a chance to win staycations in and out of St. Kitts and Nevis. Couples packages are 1,500 EC, all-inclusive of 3 nights at the Marriott Hotel, passes to the seminar sessions, and 2 boat ride passes on Prince Devonte. Single packages fee 1,300 EC, all-inclusive, 3 nights at the Marriott Hotel, passes for seminar sessions, 1 boat ride pass. Hosted by Mr. and Mrs. Hassani and Daniel Pettiford of Couples Academy out of the USA, and Mr. and Mrs. Redeem of Redeemed Promotions. Call 869-667-7381. Register now.
Well, that's our show. We thank you for tuning in. Listen, tomorrow night we have Infidelity recovery. We have a powerful, powerful topic. We're going to be talking about how do you begin to gain sexual intimacy after an affair. And I'm excited because in May we're doing a serious 4-part series on sexual betrayal and the stickiness that's involved in an affair when you're sleeping with when your spouse is sleeping with the same sex. Okay, your husband sleeping with another man, or your wife is sleeping with another woman. Then we're going to talk about, when children come as a result of an affair relationship. How about STDs? How about when STDs are the consequence of an affair and it's brought into the household? And then lastly, another sticky issue, incest. Yeah, you can actually cheat on your spouse with your child. We're going to be dealing with those particular topics. We want you to continue to tune in. We just want to let you know we love you. Thank you for your support. If you have any questions, reach out to us. If you are interested in a complimentary, free 30-minute counseling session, go to couplesacademy.org. That is couplesacademy.org.